Hey, what's up, everybody? Video 44 coming at you with another video. All right, so everything's going well. Got about 40 minutes or so before I can check into my room. So figured I'd just make a video and walk around the Target. Even though I don't really need anything at Target, I'd probably just walk around and kill time. But yeah, everything went well. Had a good meal last night. Ordered some Hawaiian food, and it digested pretty well. Wasn't too bad. Watched those terrible basketball games, the play-in tournament games. They both sucked really bad, and you know, now I got over here, no problem. And now just wanted to make a therapy session and just chat about the dream that I had last night, which was pretty interesting. It was really interesting, actually, because in the dream was myself and a friend of mine's sister. The problem was with the dream is that I think I had the person wrong. I think it was one of those situations where I thought I was standing next to one person and it was actually someone else. So that was kind of the energy there in the dream. And my mom, it was like we were standing in line at this place that is a club over on Cahuenga. It's no longer a club there, to be honest with you. That thing, in fact, burned down like 3 times. I think it was a tax thing, to be honest with you. People were burning that thing down on purpose, I think. But nevertheless, the dream I had was really poignant because instead of it being a club, it was like a church, and we were going there. We were standing in line to get into a funeral, and but it was almost as if we were in the line, but we weren't actually knowing why we were there. But while we were standing in line, it was me. My mother was standing behind me. Naturally, my mom's always in these dreams. And then it was myself and my friend's sister who was standing next to me. The problem was, throughout the course of the dream, I was thinking she was one sister of his, and I think it was actually another sister of his. Because he has like 2 little sisters that I was acquainted with back in the day. One of them I went to school with because she was our age. The other one was the little one, the baby one, who I became friends with later on in life. But nevertheless, I was calling her the younger one's name, but it looked like the older one that I went to school with. But it was like I was getting everything wrong in regards to like catching up with this person. I said, so how the kids doing? The older one has kids. The younger one has a son, last I checked, unless she's had kids since, for which could very well be. But it was almost like I was embarrassing myself because I'm like, yo, do you even know who you're standing next to? Was what I was kind of getting. And she was getting upset with me because I was getting the facts wrong. Like, that's literally how that was going. But she wasn't telling me that. She was just having attitude. And I think my mother was trying to get my attention standing behind me. I guess to either raise awareness that I had the wrong person, or just to kind of like kill the tension or something. But I was trying to communicate with the girl. My mom was like kind of in the way. Is how it was played out in the dream. Weird stuff. But it was one of those situations where, as we were standing in line in this in front of this club over on in Hollywood, over by where I used to live. I believe the street is called Cahuenga, and not really sure the cross street. I never actually remember the streets, even though I lived over there for a million years. But it's a club over there that burnt down many times, many times, and at least 4 times I think burnt down. And I guess we were standing in front of where that club usually stands, but it was something else there instead of the club itself. It was almost like it was a church or some type of memorial place. And it turns out we were there for a funeral. And when we got when we got to the front of the line we were standing in, it was 2 hearses parked like right in front of us, one on the right side and one on the left side, back front toward us, cocked at an angle, parked ever so slanted. And they were putting caskets in there. I guess the funeral had ended, and now they were getting ready to take the bodies to where they were going. And it turns out, and I don't know where this came from, it was very sad and very morbid in my dream, But it turns out it was two little girls, two 13-year-old girls who had passed away, twins who had died. And I was like, what in the heck does this have to do with anything in my dream? Hopefully nothing. You know, literally, hopefully nothing. But like, that was the dream. Me and my homie sister and my mom were in line to pay our respects to the girls who had passed. And as I got to the front of the line, they were putting the caskets in. I guess one of their family members, I was guessing it was either a big brother or their father, walked past me, and I paid my respects, slapped hands with him, and said my condolences to him. A Caucasian man. Didn't look like he was that old though. That's why I thought it may be a big brother or something like that, because he looked like he was probably about 30 at the oldest. But yeah, that was what it was. And it wasn't anyone telling me this is who that was. It was just almost like I understood it. Maybe I knew the man or something. But yeah, that was extremely disturbing. But like, after that whole scene, I woke up immediately from that part of the dream. Just woke up. I'm like, what the hell was that? Like, that was very, very sad. You know what I mean? It's like 2 little girls. What the hell? And I've been hearing about people dying and stuff like that. Obviously, what's going on in Gaza, kids are constantly being killed. And I think that was one of the last things that I saw before I went to sleep, was footage of the latest of what's going on over there, for which has been, you know, just continued carnage toward children. So it's like, that wasn't so far-fetched, but the way that was set up and the way that dream was going, it didn't have nothing to do with that. It didn't have anything to do with that. So I don't know, it was weird, man. Very, very disturbing stuff. You know, I woke up out of my dream. It was probably about 5:30, and of course, naturally, I went into prayer, man. And the energy that I had was just bad this morning. After waking up out of that dream, I was just so angry and so unhappy with things, and I was a version of myself that I didn't recognize. And I meditated in that space for almost an hour, and got all that energy out of me. But I was very unhappy, just naturally unhappy about a lot of different things. And I don't feel that way right now. I think I got all that out of my system, kept my head under the covers, and just told God everything that I had in my heart, didn't hold nothing back. All of the different little frustrations that I was feeling in that moment. And as soon as I got it out of my system, got in the shower, made peace, prayed a lot, and that energy is completely out of my system. I don't feel any unhappiness whatsoever. Essentially, what I got from that was, you know, the enemy is trying to get you to revert into old ways of looking at things, sort of like we've been talking about off and on this channel over the last couple of days. The Lord has been very satisfied with how I've been handling things. And of course, naturally, the enemy is going to try to use anything he can control to shake that loose and ultimately send you back down the path that he wants you to go. So this morning I felt like there was just a lot of inner unhappiness and a lot of negativity and a lot of resentment and frustration just coming out of me from really no apparent way, no apparent space that made any sense to me. I didn't go to sleep unhappy, but after that dream I just woke up unhappy, and I was talking like I hadn't talked in years, miserable in ways that I hadn't felt since I was in my early 30s. Like, I didn't understand what I was reverting back to, but it certainly isn't the person I recognize in the mirror now. Old feelings, old ways of looking at things, real dark stuff. And I was like, yo, man, it's not even how I think anymore. I don't talk like this, I don't think like this, I don't feel like myself. But it was what it was, man. Like I said, I got it all out. I kept it toward God, you know. I gave that energy to him and I let it go. I didn't hold on to it past that moment, man. But I can assure you that I ain't felt like that in years, and none of that come out of me in years. So yeah, man, I just let it be. Sometimes you just gotta let things out. Sometimes you just gotta let the anger out, or whatever it is. But to know why it's there and why it needs to go. You know, we pray about that type of stuff. I do pray about that type of stuff all the time. Like, get the evil out of my heart, get the hatred out of my heart, get the anger, childishness, resentment, selfishness, self-centered nature, making everything about myself, get all that out of my system. Pray about that all the time, so that energy, which came to me naturally when I wasn't aware that wasn't something to want for myself, doesn't come back. And it did. It literally did this morning. But it's like, I know better now. Some of that frustration, I don't even have that way of looking at certain things anymore. So it was just a lot of bad vibes. That's all it was. Just a lot of awful energy that I thought I had worked out of my system fully, but woke up with. And sometimes I guess what I'm understanding is that sometimes we do revert back to old ways. But the question is how quickly can we give all that to God and snap out of it? Is I think what I guess the interest is how do you handle it when you feel that way? Because those aspects of your personality, if you held on to them long enough in your life, they're not too far away. All they need to be is provoked. And if you're in a moment of weakness, a lot of that evil, or a lot of that hurt, or whatever it is, a lot of that skepticism or low frequency energy can very easily rise back to the surface. You've changed, so that person ain't who you are, but those ways of doing things, they're very easy for you to fall back into, is what I guess I saw there. That's not necessarily a revelation, but like when it happens, it's like shocking, I guess you could say. That's not who I am anymore. Like, that's not how I look at the world. That's not what I think of my own pain. That's not what I think of others. It's not. I don't even believe half of it. But it was coming out of me so naturally, just like it used to when I did believe things like that, when I did think that way, when I was on that type of frequency. So, it's just like, how do you handle it is what comes to mind. How do you handle it? Do you continue to go along with it and let it control your day? Or do you leave it in the moment and give it to God? And I gave it to God. I said, look, I'm not going to turn any of this into actions or activity. I'm going to turn this into prayer. That was my thinking. As I was feeling all this, I'm like, look, I don't handle my problems like this. I don't feel this is my solution to anything. Based on all of the different things that we've talked about on my channel and all the different things that I've seen in my life over the last 10 years. I don't feel this is constructive at all. So I'm not a child. And I think this is a childish way of thinking, childish way of reacting to the world or reacting to whatever frustrations may be in my life. But, just the same, how do you handle it? And when you get stuff like that, it could be a test. I feel it could be a test to see how you handle it, what you're going to do with that energy. Are you going to believe that stuff, or are you going to understand it to be an attack on your spirit, having you revert back to old ways that the Lord was not pleased with, and having you, bringing back things into your life that don't need to be here anymore? And so my thinking is, no, I don't want none of that. I don't want any of that. I don't want anything that comes with any of that. And let's leave it here. Let's give it to God and let's pray it off of us. And so that's what it is, man. I don't care to revisit any of that energy as it pertains to what was said or what I felt, because it wasn't constructive. It wasn't of God. It wasn't even of who I'm trying to be from here on out. It isn't of who I've been, to be honest with you, over the last 2 years with this channel. So that stuff ain't no good. And furthermore, I thought that I had a tremendous prayer session afterward. Tremendous. In the shower, working all of that on my system, declaring that I rebuke all of that, declaring that it ain't no good for me, that I don't need it, declaring that God is the ruler of things, and if he wants me to trust him, as we talked about in my last therapy session, without understanding, that's something I trust him enough to lend him in this era of my life, as I'm learning how to do that. And so I just felt like that was just an elaborate attack. It only takes something the enemy is in control of, to be used against you as a tool to divert you from positivity, as a tool from diverting you from energy that ultimately is constructive to the Lord. And that's kind of what I was thinking about this morning. There's a lot of stuff that we can do naturally based on how the world teaches us how to react to our problems, how to handle our problems, how to put ourselves in positions to not be of service to God. There are a million different things you can use that he cannot use. God, meaning the enemy, can use these things to make worse of you, but God can't do a whole lot with certain energy that ultimately you may go to try to cope with whatever your frustrations are. So in trying to heal, we need not pick up the tools that the devil can use. We need to try to pick up the tools that God can use to put us in a position to heal from whatever frustrations or whatever pains we may be in. You could sit back and think about that while being frustrated and talk your way around further damage and further usage of the enemy. You can talk your way out of that just by being cognizant of that truth. That there are things God can use and there are things the enemy can use. If you pick up the enemy's tools, you become useless to God. If you pick up God's tools, you become useless to the enemy. So what do you choose? That's what it comes down to. Which do you choose? And for me, the choice is rather easy. I've seen what happens when I allow the enemy to utilize tools against me. I end up being a tool myself and then end up being destructive to myself and others. That's not where I'm headed. That's what I've been through that led me to circumstances that I'm not pleased with. So it's a very simple choice. Pick up the tools that the Lord can use in the space of frustration. It's okay to feel what you feel. Your feelings can be valid, but give those feelings to God so that in doing so, he can hand you the tools that he can use so that you can be a tool that he can use, if that makes any sense. If you hand your energy to the enemy or to the world, your frustrations to the world, so to speak, like we're taught to do, then you can't be necessarily used by God to heal yourself or others, but the enemy will then pick you up and use you as a tool against the world, against yourself, against God, or what have you. So yeah, man, that's what I took from that. That's what I struggled with last night. And as I go forward, that's what I look not to struggle with anymore. The alignment that I'm trying to have in a relationship with God that I'm hoping to build is not going to allow me any memories of doing things the wrong way in this era. That's what the goal is. And to do things the right way, whether it brings me whatever I'm looking for or maybe not. You know what I mean? But the point is to do what I need to do within the journey itself. Not necessarily to be pleased with the outcome. That's God's business. Because you can find yourself pleased with outcomes, doing things the wrong way, only to find yourself taking on curses and consequences. That's not the goal anymore. The goal is to do things the right way and live with whatever comes with that, and then let the Lord bring me the consequences of his pleasures in my actions. You see what I'm saying? So it's like when you get to a point where that's what you want, you live long enough doing things the wrong way, and you live long enough seeing others doing things the wrong way, you no longer find yourself looking to bring yourself consequences, or rather bring yourself what makes you happy, so to speak. Because a lot of times what makes us happy is aligned with being a tool of the enemy based on what we're taught to want. So the quest, when you reach enlightenment, is to be of better wants. To be of better wants, not just to be satisfied with whatever you want, but to make sure that those wants welcome the right things into your life. So a lot of times the things we want, they don't turn out to be what we think they are. Sometimes the things we want, they don't turn out to be what we thought they would be in our hands. It may be great in other people's hands, but once you get it, it has a whole different meaning, a whole different consequence. And so that's what I've come to preach to you guys more than once on this channel. And that's also where this conversation lies. Or the conversation I had with God really kind of led me to, is allowing Him to use me, even through frustrations and reversions back to old ways of thinking, so that He can snap me out of that and then teach me what it is that He wants me to learn in the circumstance, so I could utilize it and bring it back to you guys if that's what it's about. And so I think that's what it was about, you know. And to let you know, like, I'm not perfect. I'm not perfect. I'm as I teach, I too look to learn. As I declare, I still look to have, you know, things revealed to me and to discover. And I think the part of being a good teacher is understanding that the quest for knowledge and enlightenment continues. As long as we're alive, there's still something that we can do to get better. There's always something the enemy's going to look to use to make us worse, as long as you're on earth. Because that's what we tend to forget a lot of times when people teach us good things, or they pray in our lives, or they bring us the word of God, or whatever it is they bring us. Tend to forget that they're still susceptible to an evil and wicked and cruel world. And as they take on new things, if they handle them well, they can continue to be as anointed as they were in the moment that you most respect them in. But if they don't handle them well, then they could make a turn for the worse and revert back to the worst of ways, or even just, you know, discover new worse ways that were never in place before, and be worse from here on out. We've seen people, and I've seen people who I've respected greatly later on in life just give up, or just stop caring about the things they used to care about because of whatever happens in their life over the course of time. They may have had it right at age 39. You fast forward 30 years and the devil get to them. We've seen it more than once in this life. We've seen it in some of the people that we respect the most. Let them live long enough, and they end up going back to being even worse human beings than they were when they were younger, before they realized they wanted to be good people. It's a practice, you know. Just like I say about faith is a practice, so is integrity, so is courage. And it's very easy to get discouraged over time when you get worn out by disappointment, by heartache, by temptation, by moments of reverting, like I had this morning. You get worn down, you lose enough of them battles, and you can undo a lot of good. And you may have people that saw you when you were at your best that think you stay that way for the rest of your life. But the reality is, it requires a practice and a certain intention and faith to keep practicing that faith, even past your peak or the best version of yourself. A lot of us reach a peak where we're at our best, we are our best, God is pleased with us, but we don't pass away. You live past that day, and the devil works on you. Heartache works on you. Whatever happens, happens. And now it's incumbent upon you to win new battles. And if you lose those battles, your spirit can turn. And that's what I think I've also learned today, that the battle continues. To be a good person. And just because the Lord is pleased with me in this era, don't mean He's going to be pleased with me tomorrow. Just like He was unhappy with me yesterday. Not yesterday, but like in the past. You know, figuratively speaking. Just like He was very unhappy with me at one point. So too He can be happy with you. But if you think for 1 second that the journey ends as it pertains to the spiritual warfare you're in, you're wrong, because you're still in an evil world. There's still tomorrow coming with whatever challenges it does. If you don't keep that faith in practice, if you don't keep that positivity in practice, if you don't keep your hope, then that for which is hopeless can overpower you if you allow it to. Man, that's what happens to a lot of people. They start, they start on this mission to become better people. They learn what they learn, and they become hopeful. And through that hope, they become their best and reach their peak. And then they start having things revealed to them about how the world really works. And then they lose that for which made them so hopeful, because they feel like as the world is revealed to them to be as corrupt as it is, as people that they thought powered them in a lot of cases toward being their best fail, and they witnessed that. Over time, a lot of those people just say, what's the use? What's the use of being a good person? Everything I believed in was phony. The more knowledge I get, the more hopeless this feels. And they become part of the problem in that regard. After reaching a peak of great hope and a great wisdom and all of that, they reach a space where they're doing so many good deeds, and they speaking in the way they're supposed to. They're fighting a good fight. They standing up for the rights of others, and then all of a sudden they learn a few things about how this went, or discover a few demons within themselves that they want to feed, and then all of a sudden it just goes back down. The devil continues to wear on them. This is a world that's going to continue to wear on you. This is the world where the more you learn, the less likely you feel there's any hope in changing this thing. It's an evil world. But greater is you, that for which is in you, than what is in this world. Is what the truth is, no matter how long you stay here, no matter what you find out about how hopeless it may seem, that there is a God beyond what it is that this world understands, beyond the stars, that is still looking to the chosen few of us, or whoever it is, to keep this thing from being completely evil. And if we lose our way, then there is no hope. And so that's what I want to tell all the young freedom fighters out there, all the young people who are fighting for the right for others to be free, or whatever the plight of your day is. Those of us who are trying to stand up for justice in whatever way we believe, already understand that the enemy is going to continue to work hard on you, everybody you believe in. But that same wondrous optimism, some would call naivete, is what is going to change the world. Not you discovering just how bad it is and the details of how difficult it can be for others. That is not what is going to drive the world toward changing for the better. It's going to be that childlike optimism that drove you to believe that you could change the world, that ultimately drives the people that do. And that's what I want people to understand. This is an evil world. You will dig and find out how awful it is. You're going to dig and find out how fake people are being. You're going to dig and find out some of the best of us have struggled with things and all of this and that. But at the end of the day, it's an evil world. So of course, people are going to struggle. And the longer they stay here, the more susceptible they're going to be to that struggle. The question is, can they keep that faith, that optimism, and that belief that there is a God greater than the world, powering that for which is in them and everybody like them to be the good within the world. Keep that no matter what you find on your journey. Keep that no matter how many times you revert back to old ways. Keep that no matter how much trauma or tragedy enters your life. Keep that which makes you feel like it's worthy of being right, because that shouldn't waver with the truth or what seems. That's what is true. That for which is strong enough to change the world doesn't waver when revealed just how rigged the world is. You already know that. You already know that people can be fake. You already know that there are preachers out there looking to take money. You already know that these politicians are doing things they have no business doing, discarding of humanity. You already know that some of these individuals that you trust the most have dealt with the worst of things, and you may find the worst about them. Don't put your faith in man. Put your faith in God. Don't put your faith in what you can do. Put your faith in the idea that you can be used by God as a piece to the puzzle that changes things for the better forever. That is going to require you to be a little crazy, so to speak, a little naive, so to speak. You got to step outside of the status quo. You got to stand when everybody else is folding. You understand what I'm saying? Because the presence of people who do good for a long time and get taken by the devil, that's meant to discourage those who would otherwise do good for a long time from doing good for a long time. That's why you see people who stood for social justice in the 70s in some cases turn and be horrible individuals in the 2020s. Yield to the evils that ultimately make this thing what it is as we know it to be. Losing their hope in God. Losing that childlike love for humanity. That's why they say young people change the world, because they're crazy enough to do it. Old people seen too much and they're influenced by the world as they've been here too long and they've been dirtied by the world. It's just like saturating yourself in something. You know, you saturate meat in seasoning or whatever, you know, when you marinate meat, the longer it sits, the more potent the seasoning. So too, the longer a person lives, the more likely they're going to be susceptible to the evils and the ways of the world itself. You're stuck here and you're soaking in this evil place. But it takes those who have a relationship with God that is unwavering to not be consumed by it. To not be so dejected by the truth of it that they forget that it takes the crazy and the wild and those who think outside the box to actually change that reality. Those people will let you down, man. But it's incumbent upon you to take care of what's in the mirror. And it starts with having a relationship with God and not letting moments of reversion change your spirit away from what it is that you're supposed to be. Whatever that is. Standing up for what you believe in enough time so that you can look in the mirror and see something you're proud of. Every day, especially on bad days. It's important. That's why I tell people, don't value things that don't hold any real spiritual weight or any real substance. Because a lot of times in the chase of those things, you lose your love for self. You lose your hope in others because you see yourself fall and you think that everybody else is falling because you fall. No. Those of us who are strong enough not to won't. And we will be the example of why someone else should hold on. It goes both ways in that way, in that regard. So you gotta keep your hope, your relationship with God intact, and spend each and every day practicing the understanding that you believe in something greater than yourself, greater than that for which are the inner workings of an evil world, greater than that of the threats of the enemy, of the devastation of heartache, pain. Don't walk down paths that ultimately you're going to find yourself addicted by or compromised by. It requires your faith to win those battles each and every day. Because the bad days come around. The hard days come around. The reversion mornings come around. You know what I'm saying? And if you want things for the wrong reasons, believe me, if you're chasing things for the wrong reasons, you're using tools of the enemy. This is something that needs to be really understood. Because a lot of us want people for reasons or want things for reasons that are not of God. You're setting yourself up for a bad day that could turn your spirit if you're a good person. Do not fight God when he tells you or he aligns you with the understanding that something is not for you. It's not for you for these type of reasons.